Hello future mama, my name is Aga and this video is a part of my yoga teacher training graduation course. As you can see, I'm 36 weeks pregnant and that has inspired me to make this video. So a couple weeks ago I have found out that my baby is in the breech position and it's not very keen on turning. So I have decided to put on a few yoga poses and a short yoga practice to help my baby to turn into the head down position. I still don't know if my daily exercises helped. I'm gonna find out next week. But I have decided to share my short sequence with you and hopefully it will help you, your baby and my baby to turn and to be ready for the natural birth giving. So we gonna start, but before you guys start, I would like you to maybe consult with your doctor or midwife and make sure it's safe for you to do some yoga. And for our yoga practice, you're gonna need, don't really need it, but if you've got a yoga block or a bigger book at home, it's handy to use it. I found it really good since I'm pregnant to use a yoga block to sit on it during my yoga practice, as well to have in hand several pillows or some blanket for the shavasana in the end will be handy. So we're gonna start from making some room in our tummies for the baby, but before that we will do some breathing. So in the beginning of a practice, you always want to connect with your breath, and when you're pregnant you as well want to connect with your baby. So place your palm on the tummy, on your abdominal, on your baby, and the other palm on your heart. We can close our eyes and start breathing. So we can breathe in the nose and breathe out with your mouth. Breathe in. Exhale out. Breathe in. So what I like to do in the beginning of my practice, I usually set up an intention for the practice. So my sankalpa for today won't be to turn my baby, because this is a human being already, and I can't tell my baby what the baby should do. So I will just accept whatever the baby decides to do. I will just do my best to help it. So you can choose your own intention. It can be the same as mine is. Or maybe you just want it to be healthy and happy, or whatever comes to your mind. So send the intention to your baby and to your heart, and take the last deep breath in and sigh it out. If you're sitting on the block, open your eyes. You can move the block and put it somewhere nearby. So we will start from stretching, as I've mentioned, and making some room for our baby. So what are we gonna do? So I would like you to tuck your toes the way I'm doing it, if you can, if it's not too difficult for you, and then sit down on your heels. Once you do that, why are we doing it? Because when we're pregnant, our feet tend to get a little bit swollen, and by stretching the arches of our feet, we help the swelling to release. So quite often in the evening I try to sit on my heels. I understand that it can be a little bit difficult for some of us. If it is, just back a little bit up, because we will be just stretching over here with our ribcage. So we're gonna start. So you can have your legs hip distance apart, a little bit wider. It's up to you how you can have it, because the goal of this little stretch is to make up some room for our baby to turn in the ribcage. So stretch our arms to the sides, and we will be turning. On the breath in, we turn in. You can touch the floor if you can, and breathe out. You can do it with your eye, or you can sign out with your mouth, or you can just use your mouth. So breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in in and out. And the last one, so take it a little bit deeper. Breathe in, out, breathe in, and out. I can feel my feet are getting a little bit of a work. So we can just tap our toes back and let's find each other in all fours position. So spread your fingers wide, stack your hands over your shoulders. Your knees can be hip distance apart, but if you need, you can have them a little bit wide. So basically when we want to turn our baby, we want the gravity to help us, but we want as well to, so the law of the gravity will be that we want to keep our hips a little bit higher than our torsos. So we will be working a lot with our shoulders today. So we will start from stretching our shoulders and from stretching our back. So we will start with a slowly cat-cow position. So on breath in, we will arch our back and look up. And on the breath out, we will raise the spine up and look on our belly button or on our big bellies. So breathe in, look up, and breathe out. So on our beautiful big bellies. And you can move with your own pace here. You can do it for as long as you want every day. It's a beautiful exercise to help us stretch our spine, make some room in our hips. One more time, breathe in and breathe out. Let's find ourselves in a neutral spine. So as I have mentioned, we will be working a lot with our shoulders. So an excellent exercise to stretch our shoulders is so-called prebendal. So we're going to start from our left side. So we will raise our left arm up on the inhale, and on the exhale, we will place the palm down on the floor. And here, if you have a big belly and you can't lean, you can just stay here. But if you can lie down on the floor, you can even maybe move your hips a little bit further. We're going to stay here only for a couple breaths. If this pose is too intense for you, just back up. You don't have to do each of the poses. So we have to stay balanced. So we're going to repeat it on the other side. So let's raise our right hand up and let's place our shoulder down. Stay here for a couple of breaths. And let's come back. So, when we are not pregnant, we are working quite lots with our core muscles. But unfortunately, when we're pregnant, we can't really do any of the out exercises. But do you remember the side plank? There is a little easy version of a side plank. So we will try to do it because we need some space in our hips for the baby to turn as well. So let's do the side plank first of all on the right hand side. So let's move our right foot a little bit out of line, so a little bit closer to the wall in my case. Let's stack the hip and let's move. In this pose, we are making a beautiful opening of the hips for the baby to turn. Let's try to keep it for 10 seconds. If you can't, you can't. If you can, just keep it. It's a safe pregnancy pose for most of us. And it's a beautiful opening and as well strengthening exercise. Let's back up and we're going to repeat it on the other side. So I'll just move so you can see better. So let's move our left foot to the left for a little bit more of balance because we are becoming a little bit unbalanced when we're pregnant. Try to keep your right foot activated, so flex it. our chest. Hopefully we've opened our hips. We keep on repeating these little sequences, little asanas as many times as you want. We're gonna move to 3 different versions of downward facing dogs, so called. So we're gonna start from a puppy pose. So a puppy pose, we're gonna find ourselves in all fours again. So make sure we have neutral spine, our hips are nice and loose here. So a puppy pose is basically kind of a downward facing dog, but we are not really lifting our hips up. So what do? We are in all fours and we will try to slide and move our hands in front of us. So another name for this pose is as well melting the heart. So we'll try to melt our heart to the floor. So try to keep in mind that the baby's here, you want to keep it safe. So we're going to start moving slowly. So we're going to move our arms forward. And if you have enough strength, you can put, if you have enough flexibility in you, I believe you do with all the hormones we've got, you can place your forehead down on the mat. But if this is too demanding for you, you can have a block and you can place your head on the block and you will stay in this pose for a minute or 2. So for me, the block is not really working. I prefer to have my head on the floor. So I'll stay here for a while and try to rest. Relax and breathe deeply. So after that, let's move back to our all fours. So you can keep this pose as long as your body allows you. Almost 37 weeks pregnant, so 5 breaths is long enough for me. So another pose which is very good for turning the baby is just a classic downward facing dog. So let's tuck our toes and let's move our hips out. Breathe in and breathe out. Because it's our first downward facing dog, let's walk it a little bit. So let's move let's try to stack our heels into the floor. Right, left, right, left. Now you can try to put both of the heels down, but if you can't, you don't have to. Try to keep your knees a little bit bent, and thanks to that, you should be able to have your hips a little bit high. Try to keep a micro bend in your elbows as well, and stretch. Couple more breaths here. Let's put our knees down on the mat. You can untuck your toes and rest a little bit, because we are moving into our last variation of down. It's not a downward facing dog. The next pose is dolphin. It's a little bit more demanding. So for dolphin pose, for some of you this pose can be a little bit too intense, and if it is, you can always move back into puppy or into downward facing dog. You can make a choice. You know, it's your own practice. As long as your hips are higher than your toes, then you're good, then you're sweet. So for the dolphin, you will need to a little bit measure our elbows. So we're gonna put our elbows and try to touch our hands with elbows. So this is setting up the base for the dolphin. Still need some space for our tummies. We tuck our toes again. You can either have your palms facing down, or you can tuck them together. And we're gonna lift up. So we're gonna lift up the same way we did for downward facing dog. And you will try to stay for 4 breaths this time. So breathe in, out, and you can, if you are able, you can tuck your toes. If you aren't, you don't have to. It's not your calf stretch. If it's too much for your shoulders, too much for your hamstrings, just back off, find yourself in the child's pose. That's where we're gonna be. One more breath in and out. And let's find ourselves in the child's pose. No, the classic child's pose doesn't work for me anymore. I need my knees really wide. So just let's try to stretch what we have been just using, our shoulders. So again, similar to tracking pose, we can use the block. This is what works best for me. And let's just stretch our spine, but leave enough space for our babies. And you can stay here for as long as you want. I'm gonna stay here for a couple of breaths. Okay. So our next pose will be the bridge pose. So let's find ourselves in the seated position. Our feet are in front of us, and I'm gonna use the block, so it's gonna be a support bridge position. So let's lie on our back, not for too long because it's not really recommended for this stage of our pregnancy. Let's try to keep our heels as close to our buttocks as possible. And let's stretch. Breathe in and breathe out. So the bridge pose, in the bridge pose, we're gonna lift up our hips and I will use the block and I will rest up there. If you have enough strength in you, you can just do no support bridge. So we're gonna lift on the breathe in. So if you're not using the block, you're gonna stay on your shoulders, but I'm a little bit tired today, so I'm gonna use the block to support my hips. So you wanna place the block a little bit under the sit bones. Hands under, and you can stay here again as long as you want, as long as it's comfortable for you. It's getting a little bit much for me these last weeks, so I'm gonna stay here for a couple of breaths. Close your eyes. When you're moving back from your pose, lift your hips a little bit. Place the block next to you. And so we're going to move to our Shavasana, our resting pose. Today our resting pose will be legs up the wall. So in the beginning of our sequence, I've asked you to have some pillows or a block. For me, the block works the best. So that's what I'm going to use. But if you have pillows, you can stack them up. If you have a blanket, if you need a blanket to have over you, I'm going to stay with the legs up the wall for a couple minutes. You can stay here for as long as you want. It's not only good for turning the baby from the beach to head down, but as well it's a very relaxing pose. And it helps for our swollen feet, which I have mentioned at the beginning of the practice. So I'm going to put the block not directly like next to the wall, because I'm going to lie on it, and I'm not going to put my buttocks directly facing the wall, because I need some space now for my tummy. So it's a little bit different to when I do this pose usually when I wasn't pregnant. And I'm going to keep my legs a little bit wider. So let me present it to you. what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just lie down. I'm gonna lift my butt a little bit. So there's probably around like 10 centimeters gap between the wall and me. And I'm gonna place my feet up. So this is already like high enough for me, but if you would like your hips to be a little bit higher, you can place a pillow or a couple pillows on the block and then rest. You can spread your feet wide and you can spread your arm wide. Close your eyes. And thank you, baby, for practicing with you. Thank yourself for coming here today. Just feel your body. How does it feel? Do you think that your baby has turned? Did the poses feel good? Or are they a little bit too demanding? And answer yourself. Did you fulfill your sankalpa? And I'm going to leave you here, dear mamas, and I want to wish you all the best for your labor and for the last weeks of your pregnancy. Thank you very much.